Good morning, and welcome to Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole, where we are rising in faith and thriving in purpose. Today's episode is going to be focusing on faith and fitness and caring for the body that God has given you. And we have a very, very special guest here today. I've known this man for almost 2 decades. I just did the math. So we have here with us today Dr. Kuile Boone. He's currently the director of Housing and Residence Life at Grand Valley State University in Michigan. And his work as a scholar practitioner centers on amplifying the voices and lived experiences of historically marginalized populations in higher education. Our guy here is degreed up. He has a degree from the University of Louisville, the University of Pacific, and a PhD from LSU. Go Tigers. Dr. Boone is passionate about turning research into real impact and keeping it real while he's at all of this. On Rise and Thrive, he brings both brilliance and boldness to the conversation. He's going to be reminding us that restoration and representation can coexist. Dr. Boone is a bourbon hunting, CrossFit loving, culture shifting scholar that you didn't know you needed on your faith and healing journey. Let's welcome him to the
Let's
show.
go. Let's go.
Yes, let's go.
Yeah.
Welcome. All right. So, our bodies are temples, and yet many of us neglect the physical aspect of neglect the physical aspect of our well-being while focusing on spiritual growth. But faith and fitness, they go hand in hand. So, caring for your body is also an act of worship, discipline, and gratitude. So, in this episode, we're going to explore how we can shift our mindsets around health and wellness and how we can honor God by taking care of ourselves and how to build sustainable habits that support both our spiritual and physical well being. All right, Dr. Boone, welcome to the
Thank you for
show.
having me. This is awesome.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here to talk about such an important topic. So, tell me about why this topic is important to you.
Yeah. It took a minute for me to figure out that fitness or taking care of me was super important because I never took care of like everything. Like the world makes you feel like you don't have time to do it, right? You gotta just go.
Mm,
And that hustle mentality will catch up to you. And next thing you know, you're just burning out and you're trying to figure out like what next and whatnot. And it's interesting that you even asked me to speak about this because like my mantra for this year is to make time for time. Like it's literally
come on,
like
alignment.
what can I do or what have I been putting off because I said I don't have the time to do it, right? So I think this topic is
Mm.
important because it really makes you sit down with yourself and become aware of like what are you actually making time for? Because we got a lot of excuses, right? You know, we got kids or puppies or work or whatever, and you just can't sit down because you gotta go. And I don't want to be a hypocrite. I'm all about the go. But there is moments where you just got to take control of yourself. So this is important to me just because I've watched people literally sell their body, their mind and spirit for the job, right? And
Mm,
in my field, everything is about being student centered. And I've watched people burn out of this field by giving everything they had to the students without recognizing they probably haven't addressed some trauma or lack of movement that needs to be handled. So that's why it's important to me.
hmm Yes, thank you for that. And that's super important. So I recently saw you in New Orleans at NASPA, which is a student affairs conference. For those of you that don't know, before I was in mental health, I was in higher ed where I got my start. That's how I met this awesome guy just shy of 20 years ago. And something that I recognized, Kyle, having been out of the field and then being back in community with you all, is how boundaries are not really promoted or really reinforced. And it might be at some institutions, but I'm just saying generally, right? And that lack of boundaries, that lack of self care, even though we talk about it with students and with them, we don't model it. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that since you did bring up burnout being a common thing in your
Yeah.
field?
You know, we don't model it. at all. I think we're getting better, but I don't think we
Okay.
do it at all. Not at all. I don't think we do it as well as we probably should, right? You can just think about like when's the last time you received a 3 a.m. email, right? Like we do that in this field because we're up and we feel like it's
Mm.
time to work. Well, me at my level, if I do it, my staff may read it and say, well, shucks, Boone's up, so I gotta be up, right? And then it creates something
Oh.
that is not sustainable, right? So we don't model it really well, but I think we're getting better at it. The thing is, like,
Mhm.
it's levels. Entry level, early
Mhm.
career professionals are really trying to put their foot in the door and say, I'm supposed to be here, not recognizing they belong
Mhm.
since they got their degree, they belong since they got that first job. So
And they don't have
right,
to
you don't have to
prove.
prove yourself to us. And even trying to prove yourself to us, even like in the fitness world, like think about it, like you're not gonna run as fast as somebody else, but you might, you may not. So anyway, there are some boundaries that we haven't really found a way to like create the delineation between work and life. But I think the beautiful thing that I'm watching is even though we haven't done boundaries real well, we're talking about harmony now. Like we're talking about like, well, how do we create some type of alignment with your work and your life? And I think jobs, and I can't say every job, I can say for this job, jobs are
Right.
saying we do care. Now it's really up to us to say, show me, right? I want to try and see what happens.
And I love what you just said, that you're aware of your influence as a leader. That if your team sees you up at 3 a.m. sending emails, that indirectly sends a message that this is a standard. If my leader is showing poor boundaries without that, that's what I'm calling it, right? If he's showing poor work life balance, oh well, I gotta rise to that standard that's being
Yeah, and
set.
let me add, like even in interviews, we love that
Hmm.
candidate that says, I'm ready to hit the ground running." Like we love it.
We do.
We want it. It's sexy. It's the thing. Like, oh my gosh, you're ready to come in and knock a wall down. But even in the idea of it all, like just if you think about it, if I'm in an interview, if I'm in a suit, I'm clean, and you tell me to step out and hit the ground running, like at the end of the day, I'm not prepared to run. Right? Like I'm literally dressed up. I
Mm.
might rip my suit. I might slip and fall. So the idea sounds good on TV, right? But it's really not something that is sustainable. Sometimes you have to put on your running
Hmm.
shoes. And I think when I look at like what we actually reward, right? We reward the people
Hmm.
who don't have the balance. We reward the people who say they're going to hit the ground running and do it. The person who literally wants to stretch a little bit is not seen as
Hmm.
the person, right? Or at least often it's not seen as a person. So I think even in our normal like nomenclature, like it's a thing where we promote it and we're also recruiting for it, which is kind of interesting.
Yep, yep, and you're right, and that could easily lead to attracting a similar type of candidate. I mean, a specific type of candidate into the position that I'll be honest too. I pick up on energy, but also my clinical eyes were at work, even though I was not on the clock, right? I could see and feel and hear the anxiety in so many spaces and places that I didn't hear before when I was in the community. I had to leave the profession and then also get trained up in a different way that I was like, oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. Where we're
Yeah.
currently at, that anxiety will always flow, right? Like what we're currently doing, like education is being threatened at a different level. People are, you know,
Mhm.
beyond like executive orders, people are saying like enrollment is being challenged or is my job necessary? So, that anxiety part doesn't go away. It only amplifies in higher ed, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
it's a thing that we can't turn a blind eye to. And another reason why this conversation is pretty cool.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to shift a little bit about talking about why caring for the body is also a spiritual responsibility. We're going to first start by grounding that in scripture. So I'm going to read from First Corinthians 6:19 and 20. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. I'm actually going to add 20 because it takes it home a little bit more. You were bought at a price. Honor God with your body. So let's talk about that a little bit, like how physical health impacts our ability to fulfill God's
Yeah.
purpose.
I read a book this year. It wasn't my favorite book, but it was a good book. The Power of Ritual. And the idea of the book was like anything can be spiritual or fulfilling if you find an intent behind it, right? And then it really does ground you or center you. And I think the how of your question is the harder part, like, because a lot of us just can't get started. But the idea behind it is really important. It's not your own. It's just like your talents. Your talents are a gift that you have to mature. Your body is a gift that you have to mature. I think, especially in the black population, we usually just wait too long, right? We have the athletic prowess as a child. Everybody runs track and plays soccer, regardless of your asthma that you got, right? And then
Or even in just in the
yeah.
neighborhood.
And then, or it just could be generational. I remember I had to step outside. Matter of fact, the rule in North Carolina when I was visiting grandparents was you come back in the house when the sun hits the porch. Like you got to get out. So it was,
I've never heard sun hits
uh,
the porch. I've always heard when the street light comes on. I
and when the
love
sun hits the
this.
porch. So because it's shady at the time, so it's you're out early. They wake you up to get out the house. But that is something that's really not promoted, and maybe it is promoted, but we have so many things like technology or TVs
Yeah,
or whatever that's in the fold, so it's not really
yeah,
promoted in the same way. And neighborhoods
yeah.
are dangerous now, so it's a little different. But the idea of the body as a temple earlier in my life was more of it's not mine, right? But you got to do something with it. And I think recognizing that is really humbling, right? This is not for me. It's for those who get to see or get to experience it, or you could just bless somebody just by being in the space and they say, "Oh, you did it. Oh, if you did it, I got to try it," right? And that is a blessing in itself.
Yeah, thank you for that. So let's talk about how we can overcome guilt and shame related to body image or even past unhealthy habits, right? Because a lot of those things they get at mindset,
Yeah,
right? And that a lot of the times we can't get out of here and get really into here and action out
yeah.
here.
I I love that question. I think what's hard, arguably, is there's a lot of outcome based fitness out there, right? Like it's like if you think about it, like I want a six pack. I'm gonna start for the
Hmm.
summer. I want my summer body popping. So I'm gonna start in December, November. And I'm gonna get my
Hmm.
summer body before I get to this trip in April or whatever that thing is. So we're so outcome based.
Yeah.
And then what happens is you may have put all the work in. You might even diet it really,
Uh-huh.
really well, but you didn't reach that thing that you said you would get. And then that reward goes away. And because the reward goes away, it's like, well, why did I do it in the first place? Like I really, really
Yeah.
wanted somebody to validate my existence. And I worked for it. I sweated for it. I ate for it. I got it, but now I'm a little bloated and it doesn't work. So I
Yep.
think being outcome based um, intensifies that grief, intensifies that shame, and the anxiety I think that goes with actually working out. I like to propose, especially when I first started doing CrossFit, like I used to tell people stay off the scale because the
Yes.
problem was people would work out and next thing you know, it's like, well, I'm not losing weight. I'm like, well, stay off the scale. Are you getting stronger? Are your pants fitting differently? Do you feel better? Stay off the scale. And women when I coached or when and I'm starting to coach again, but we're really hard to tell that to because I think we have put so much pressure, we as in men have put so much pressure on women that it's like we got to, you know what I mean? We got to be 125, 130. And this it's not even physically possible for a lot of us. Or the narrative is I don't want to get bulky. And it doesn't really kind of work that way. But nonetheless, I think being outcome based doesn't help us, right? I think I like to
Yeah.
look at it as can I be skill based? Like, what are my goals? Like, what do I really am trying to accomplish physically? Not like in looks and appearance, but in action. Like, do I want to be able to walk up the stairs without breathing hard? Do I want to be able to jump high? Like, what are the action based, skill based things that I want? And then the next question is going to be, what are you willing to give up to get it? Because there is no way to outwork a bad diet. So I think there's the rub, right? Same thing with faith. Like there's no way like to be spiritually righteous on Sunday and then chill out the rest of the week. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh well, I'm good, right? Like nah, you got to go back. Like so, it's the thing of to me with fitness, it's that like you got to take the gym with you. So
Love that, love that. And you brought up such a good point with the outcome based because the other side of that is they meet the goal and then they
mhm.
stop and then they regress and then they start all over rather than it being about lifestyle. But when you think about that, that's exactly how a lot of these companies and like corporations stay in business because they can make you a repeat customer if they create messaging that keeps you in a constant cycle, you gotta, you did it,
Yeah.
chill, right? So that's a really good point. I love that you said it. I also love what you said too about the make it, it's still action based, measuring it in different ways essentially, and not just like the scale. There are all these other ways to measure it, or what is the, you're doing this to be able to do what, right? Like, and so that's fun. Like if your goal is to, what do you call those things when people like jump on the, like the different heights, the things they stack
Box shot.
up?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 like however many, I don't know how y'all measure those, I've never
Yeah.
done it, right? But it just looks so dope when you see people do those leaps, and it's amazing. And to be able to see that outcome and just saying like, I came and I said, this is what I
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
do. And that scale thing, that's the thing. I don't own a scale anymore,
Mm.
right? And so I walked off between diet and like walking. I don't even know how many pounds I walked off, but I know that I was almost a size 16 and I walked myself down to a size 6. Yeah. Yeah, I don't own a scale. I still don't know. I went to the doctor. I was like, in my mind, I wanted to really write IDK, but I was like, because NA wasn't applicable because I do have a weight, you know what I mean? But that it is super important. When you get rid of that scale, there's a different type of freedom because it reinforces just the habits, it reinforces the
Yeah.
lifestyle.
I agree.
Yeah, and what you said, you can't outwork a bad
No.
diet.
I don't
Mm.
think, yeah, I don't think it's possible. Me and my crew, every year, twice a year, we do a paleo, but it almost feels like a paleo diet. But what we're doing is
Mhm.
just resetting. It's right after Christmas,
Mhm.
and we go no alcohol, no bread, pasta, unnatural
Oh, so
sugar.
y'all taking dry
Yeah.
January to
We
another
go for
level.
about 40 days, and then it's our way to reset. But for us, and this is probably a little more spiritual, it's really an opportunity for us to be in community with each other. Right? Like what did you
Yeah.
eat today? Send me that recipe. How you feeling? Are you sleeping well? Are you drinking water? Those are conversations that we're having, checking in with each other because we're all
Mhm.
doing it at the same time. And it's
Yeah.
really a way. I think it's matured us. We can kick it with the best of them, but at the conference we ran a 5K. Like it was one of those things where we're gonna be in community with each other, and then we're gonna really be at peace with that. So I don't think you can outwork a bad diet. I think it's just impossible.
Yeah, I love that, that you are in community, not just for the social aspect, right? Like, because that comes with community. I'm hearing that there's like a depth. I'm hearing that you all care about each other's well-being. I'm hearing that you all hold each other accountable for growth in multiple areas of your life, not some of these other things that people have to outgrow in their like 20s and things like that in terms of what we focus on socially during those time periods in our life. And so I love that y'all are at a conference. I'm assuming when you're talking about your community, these are people that are spread out across the country, just how higher ed works. And then y'all are coming together and saying, yes, even though we're in these sessions all day, we're going to get up and we're going to run a 5K.
Exactly how it went.
Wow.
It was a couple phone
Wow.
calls. You bringing workout shoes or running shoes? Freaking running shoes. I guess we outside. Then. Yeah, we outside. Like yeah.
We doing
And now
something.
to be
Love it.
honest, like fully honest, we just ended our challenge. So we're gonna eat bad in New Orleans. So we did. We ate pretty bad, but
Listen,
we
man.
were also able to maintain, or at least start back up to where we were before we.
Hmm. Hmm. And what I also love there and what you said is that it's not super rigid, right? Like if you have healthy habits, you can, break outside of that. But some people they can't, right? If you have that personality, but you can enjoy culture, you can enjoy places. But if you have your practices already in place, you know what I mean? It's not hard to get back on it. I know I needed to eat a few more vegetables when I was in New Orleans, and then I came back and had to really go like all vegetarian, plant based when I got back because my system was like, "What? Why you do that?"
That's hilarious.
I'm not even kidding, but it was everything was like just amazing. Love New Orleans. Okay, so let's talk a little bit though about breaking the cycle of like negative and unhealthy habits. So let's talk about how stress, emotional eating, and a lack of self care, how those impact our overall well
Yeah,
being.
this is awareness at its finest. Like you got to ask yourself,
Mhm.
like, what do I look like, act like, who am I when I'm unbalanced? And that's a thing, right? Like if I got way too many emails, I act a certain way. I'm unbalanced. I know what it looks like. I can put my finger on it, but I can also communicate it to other people so they know, right? Like, hey, Kyle, like I don't think you're good today. Like I'm good because we always want to be self righteous, right? Like I'm straight. Like now, are you? And then you click a little bit. You're like maybe I'm not. But having a good supervisor
Mm-hmm.
matters, right? Hey, I'm going home. My wellness is I'm not balanced today or whatnot. You can't do it every day, but recognizing it does matter. I think the hard part is like when you choose to overlook it, because we're always like
Mm-hmm.
delusional when it comes to things like that, right? When it's a negative impact on you, you're kind of delusional. Like, am I stressed out? Nah. Do I got trauma? Nah. Have I been hurt? Nah, I'm strong. I'm super strong. You don't got to worry about me. And then, you haven't cried in 6 weeks and your body breaks down. Like, it's all these things matter to me. Like, having some type of awareness is a big deal. But asking yourself the question, like, what does it look like when I am stressed? Because then you can start to pinpoint, like, what is stressing me out, right?
Yeah.
I literally, right before this year, 2 years ago, excuse me, I was going to a conference, coming home for the conference, working, going to something, coming back, working. And I caught myself saying, like, I need a break in between these things so I can get back and
Mm-hmm.
reset. But it was my admin who told me that. Like, hey, like, I've audited your calendar. You shouldn't be here. Like, what do you mean I shouldn't be there? Like,
Ooh.
you're
The
over.
fact that they even thought they needed to do a calendar
Yeah.
audit is
And it's
wild.
awesome. It was absolutely awesome. So, but recognizing that stress is something you're not going to avoid. It's just acknowledging what
Mm-hmm.
brings it to you, right?
Correct.
Because life is life, and life will keep lifing.
Every time. So you listen, I knew you was gonna come in here dropping the bars and all the gems, right? So I'm like, as you're talking, I'm trying to find a pen because I was like, oh, I gotta remember to ask him this and ask him that because it's just coming so fast and it's so very good. So I love what you're saying about awareness, right? And so even what you're describing, this is what I help my clients with sometimes clinically, right? Like, so then what is the issue? And so when we start sessions, I do what I call the tap in. How are you feeling? How do you know? And how and where are you experiencing it in your body and being, right? And so if you know these things, you can label it. You know the context, sometimes the why, and sometimes, or the how do you know, is based on what they are feeling in their
Hmm.
bodies and being, right? But we don't just stop there because then it's like, well, if we know that that's the thing, right? So, like, I'll use myself as an example. I get hangry. Her name is Bridget, right? So, like, I try to protect people from Bridget. I'm in Chicago right now at the ladies' lectureship with some of my sisters from church. And I was like, no, 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 I gotta get a snack. I don't want y'all to meet Bridget. Y'all ain't never met her. And if some of y'all I've never met till today, and we not finna let Bridget out. I'm gonna go get a snack. But I know what I feel in my body when Bridget is starting to show up. I know her behaviors, right? Like, and I just say that because I get really grouchy, and then you don't get the good energy from me. Like, I shut down. I'm irritable. I really don't have nice things to say, right? So I learned to be quiet with that, but and that doesn't help it, right?
Facts.
Like, so where before it was just like I knew it, but I did nothing about it.
Yeah.
So knowing what it is, my body sends me signs and signals to say, "Hey, Bridget is she knocking on the
Hmm.
door. We want to do something about that and keep her at bay." So I think that is very important. And with awareness, we cannot address what we won't acknowledge.
Facts.
So all change starts with awareness. So
Yeah.
I love you for breaking that down in a simple way where I think is digestible to people to start there. And it doesn't have to be this huge thing either. There was something else that you said. I found my pen. I'm
We're
not
gonna
gonna
rock out.
miss nothing else. Not gonna miss anything else. Oh, it was so good. If it comes
Okay.
back to me, I'll ask you. But let's talk about how the role of faith-based motivation in terms of creating lasting changes with like healthy
Yeah.
habits.
You know, it. All right. So there's so many different ways of looking at faith based, in my opinion. I know faith is faith, but when you say the word lasting, that changes it a little bit.
Okay.
It's if you've never worked out a day in your life, there's a degree of trust you have to have with something outside of you to say I'm about to start doing it, right? It just has to
Hmm.
be because to walk into a space you've never been, I don't care how friendly you are, with the equipment you've never seen or never really used without a plan is tough. So I think you have to ask yourself, like, where does help come from? Right? Like, there's
Mm.
only so many YouTube videos you can watch of somebody squatting before you have to go squat. And then you have to say, am I doing it right? Right. So where does your help come from? And I think oftentimes we have to look at the trust or the vulnerability of it all and say, like, I need help in this. But doing it by yourself is just arrogant. It's, to me,
Mm.
don't get it wrong. You can go run right now. That's fine. Right. But the idea of being intentional, excuse me, I think my camera just locked up on me. I apologize. My fault. My connection was bad.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. I wasn't sure if it
no, it
was
was just
me.
me.
You said you can go
Yeah.
run.
But eventually, like, what next? You know what I'm saying? Unless that's your goal. If your goal is I'm just gonna be a better runner, that's cool. But I don't know. I just feel like it gets arrogant where, like, we can do all these things by ourselves. We've always been a community minded people, and we can get outside of black and white. But, like, you don't have to do it by yourself. You can. You ain't got to. So anyway, I think with faith based, I think it's the idea of asking God, like, how do I actually do what I say I want to do in the way you want me to do it? Because we try to do it in our own way and you can get injured, or we try to do it in our own way as if meritocracy is a real thing. And then we feel
Mhm.
like, yo, like, I'm gonna get it. Like, you get a badge of honor because you did it by yourself. It doesn't work like that. Every preacher needs a preacher, every coach needs a coach. Right? That's just what I believe.
Every therapist need a
Right. I
therapist.
believe that. I think with the lasting part, the second thing that you said, I don't think people understand you have to eat the elephant one bite at a time. I don't think people, yeah,
Equifinality? That's a social work
yeah,
term.
I don't think they see it. Like, I think what happens is, like, I want to eat this entire meal. It's like, what? Like, what time do you wake up? And when do you look at your email? And what's the first thing you do? Like, I think the smaller thing to do is to literally break your mornings down or your ending or your evenings down before we get to any workout conversations, right? Like, are you praying in the morning?
Mhm.
No. Are you just breathing in the morning? Or are you just going straight to work? And often, most of us go straight to
Mhm.
work. I wake up earlier. I wake up early because I got responsibility, but that first 15, 20, 35 minutes is mine. That's all mine. I'm reading. I do a minute to 5 minute breathing. I shower. I pray, but that's my time. And what was the problem was I didn't have time to do that before. But you got to make time if it's important. So for me, how I start my day and how I end my day is on my own terms. Now, let me not lie to you. There's emails that might come out at 7 in the morning for me or 8 in the morning, but I wrote them and timed them to go out that time. I'm not working. I don't look at the email until I get to the office. So there's a thing, like, I want to
Work get
own. Yeah, I
started.
want to own my day. So to create a lasting impression, it's really like, how do I bake it in my day the entire time? But to start, I had to start small.
Mhm, mhm. Oh, this is so good. Okay, okay. So again, so much in there. As you were talking about like this individuality having to do it on our own, and what came to mind is toxic individuality over community, where we want all the credit. We want to say, I was the one that did it. I was first. Oh, you just copying me. You know what I mean? That type of thing, when we are absolutely right. We came out of community, and then of course there's so many different things that have led to us breaking down, the breakdown of community, and we are rebuilding. And so even community feels foreign to some people. It's more competition than community. But what people don't understand, when you are truly in community, if one elevate, everybody else gonna elevate too. And some people, they just want to be the one that's there
Mm-hmm.
on top, that everyone's looking to. They want the position. It's very selfish, right? That doesn't help the community. And then I heard you say something else. Am I doing it right? When I hear that, it takes my mind to perfectionism. And I think that alone can stop people from even doing it. So, like, it really just depends on whoever's listening, where they are in their journey, right? Because am I doing it right is going to stop somebody. They're not even going to do it, right? And then you have the other person who is going to research and like do it properly, and then they'll be the one likely to take it back to community.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also what you're saying, it requires vulnerability on a person because you have to be able to look at self. You have to be able to try to tap into that community because the help you need might be coming from somebody already in your
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
part of vulnerability
Yeah.
is super cool, right? I'm not a, I'm everybody knows I'm a little guy. I'm 5'2", like I'm small. Yeah,
Everybody don't
I'm
know. Our audience only see
yeah,
what's in the
yeah,
camera and the energy we
yeah.
bring in.
I may act 6'5", but I know I'm little. But to see me lift is different, right? Like to see, because you're gonna look and
Mm,
say, well, he can't. Well, I know technique. I can. I'm not the greatest, but pound for pound, I get busy. But it's almost like, well, if he can do it, I gotta beat him. You know what I mean? It's like, well, no, you don't.
yeah.
You gotta beat yourself because that's embarrassing at some point, right? And then next thing you know, you never come back. And that's why I don't like
Mm,
January 1st to January 30th, because
everybody.
it's the best time of the year because everybody's ready to reset and everybody wants to get busy. And I want to welcome you to the space that has given me life since 2012, right? Like come kick it with us. Let's go. And then at some point you see that you can't do what somebody who's been doing it for 5, 10 years has been doing. You're like, I'm going home. This is too intense for me. We'll scale it down. I can't squat like that. You sit every day. It's that type of
Right.
thing where we literally don't make it make sense per se. And
Mhm.
so it's like, well, I can't lift that. Well, you lift that every time you go to the grocery store. You pick it up and you put it on top of your fridge, or pick this water and you put it on the corner of your floor. Like that stuff we do every day,
Mhm.
but we psych ourselves out because we're not vulnerable to the fact that I may not be as good as, but you showed up. When I first started this workout thing,
And that's the
yeah, when
win.
I first started, it was a trick. I was tricking myself. It was, let me just get up and put my clothes on. And then I was like, all right, man, let
Okay.
me just get in the car. All right, let me go. But I can come home and take a nap because that's my superpower. I can take a nap at any time. Like, and the next thing you know, you're there, and proximity matters, right? Like once you're in the space, it's like,
Mhm.
let's go. And then you evolve. I believe it's let's
Yeah.
go. And I believe you evolve when you commit to it. But again, we're talking intentionality, we're talking
Mhm.
awareness, definitely with vulnerability, because you can't, you know, you gotta be okay with your deficiencies, right? And say, I'm gonna work on those. There's some things in the gym I'm not good at. I come every day
Mhm.
because it's not my choice to cherry pick when I gotta do this for me. I
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So I think this is naturally going to a very important thing, and that's mindset.
mm,
Let's really talk about that a little bit, like the impact of mindset on really about breaking those
yeah,
cycles, right?
yeah,
Like you said, we can psych ourselves
yeah.
out.
I I struggle with this one because I think we all have the right idea. We just have trash follow
Mhm.
through, right? Like I think that's where it is. And again, it goes back to make time for time. But the reason that I think it works for me is how I lead in work and also how I lead in life, right? So for me, like if I know something's coming, you plan for it. It just makes sense to me. Like if I know I got a family vacation coming up, I plan for it. Now there's things that happen, let's be fair. But if you know
Mhm.
Thanksgiving hits and somebody's got to make the mac and cheese, like at some point
And it hit the same week
every
every
year, you
year.
plan for it. Same thing with work. If I know this report is due, you plan for it. But the other thing that I tell my team and I tell myself is you got to own it. There's an agency of this that you got to take responsibility for. So for me, the mindset set shift happened when I started talking about my goals, where people like to hold their goals or hold these good things to themselves because they're worried somebody's going to steal it, or they're worried somebody's going to take it and make it better. And I remember in my doc program, my major professor saying to me, like, why don't you talk about your research? I was like, we don't do that. He was like, why don't you talk about you being in school with your crew, like from back where you're from? I was like, I don't want to deal with that story of survivor's guilt, right, or survivor's remorse. I don't want that. And he was like, so you choose not to speak about it, right? Then they have somebody else they can look up to, but not you. So you're being selfish. I was like, oh, whoa, hold on, bro. But then
Oh,
he elevated and said, and with your research, you act as if somebody is better than you. And then he challenged me. He said, Kyle, if we go, everybody, people know I love clothes. So if we go to a mall, he said, what store are you going to? I was like, I'm going to Express. He said, let's go to Express together. So we go to Express together. And this is in front of the class. And he said,
Mhm.
we're going to get the same outfit. I was like, all right. He said, we're going to wear it on the same day to the same function. I was like, all right, cool.
I love a good
He
experiment.
said, so what's going to happen? And I said, they'll never see you. And he was like, why won't they see you? I said, the way I wear it is going to be different. He said, that's the point. No one can do it like you. So you need to start sharing more about what you're doing so people can challenge it. But that's also so you can make
Mm,
it better. I think the same thing with our goals. So I think our mindset doesn't shift
mm,
because we pick the people who agree with us. That when we want to take a cheat day, they're like, yeah, you're right, you deserve that. It, but they don't challenge you. They don't tell you your fly is down when it's down. So I think you shift your mindset, like set when you start to really have agency of what's happening around you. But that means you got to start talking about it. And I think that's really hard to say to people. I leave work at 4:30 to go to the gym. Well, why aren't you working? My supervisor said it's okay. And I'm going to make it up hour.
okay, I put in my
Bingo.
hours
Yeah.
already. That means I got here early enough to leave at
Yeah. So
4:30.
it's talking through your own strategy. It's having agency, been planning for it because you know it's going to come. Like if you know that
Yeah.
you want to work out, what are your days you going to the gym? You know, every day probably not sustainable. But if you talk about it, somebody will say, that's a lot, bro. That 7 days is a lot. Then they
Mhm.
may give you the grace and they may ask you, well, what do you do? I go 3 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off. Like, why do you do that? Because I'm 45 and I can't run like I used to. I can't move like I used to. And I need a day. What do you do on that day? I actually stretch on that day. I never stretched. Cool, let's get to stretching. Like, I think that's the thing where talking about your goals or talking about what you're doing and how you're enjoying it or not enjoying it helps you shift your mindset in a way that you can build off of the.
That's so good. That's so good. Thank you for that. Yep, that's really good. So now that we got mindset covered, how about finding the balance? Because it's easy, you have that mindset shift. I'm all in. I'm going hard in the paint. Whatever the thing is, how do we work on finding that balance?
You know, it is trial and error. It's less
Mhm,
about balance, more about harmony, but it's definitely trial and error. It's what works for
mhm,
you. Yeah. Yeah, balance is if I take two things and I put it on a scale, they both equal in
mhm.
weight, so they're just as important at the exact same time. And I don't necessarily believe that. I think there's some degree of harmony that, and I got stealing this idea. I forgot her name from an author I made my staff read recently. But the idea is with harmony, they may not all be equal. You could be having a bad day, but you still got to do something, right? So how do you make sure that the good rises during that time frame to support the bad? Because the bag could be super heavy. So I look at it as a little bit of harmony more than balance. Yeah.
Love that. And as you're saying it, it's like the yin and yang symbol made that much
Yeah.
more sense to
Yeah.
me. Even though we look at things like, do you really
Yeah.
process and like interpret the
Yeah.
image? But yeah, going back to finding the harmony, so that we're not operating in
Yeah.
extremes.
It's taking inventory of your time. It really is. If nothing else from your listeners, they hear from me is, do you make time for time? You really, and that's actually
Mm,
knowing what is your inventory of your time that you have. Without that, I'm telling you, it's just going to be a long road. It's just a long, long road.
yeah.
You do got to start somewhere, right?
Mhm.
But if you could break your life down to the three parts, you got work, you got family, and you got you. Let's just say that for now, right? Well, how much time do you need to spend with your family? How much time do you normally spend with you? How much time do you spend with work? Work is usually going to outweigh everything, and then family is going to outweigh everything. But if you find yourself not spending any time with you, then
Mhm.
the harmony part is, and how do I bring family into my fitness? That's the harmony part at that point, right? Because you're now asking, I need to do something for me, but I don't have time to do it for me. So who can I bring along for the ride? So at least I'm getting it done. So I'm not saying your life can be divided into three. I'm just saying for the purpose of this example.
Yeah, I got you.
But yeah, so taking inventory of your time matters. And then finding out or asking yourself, how much time should I give to this? Second thing you need to ask yourself is how
Mm-hmm.
much money you want to invest in it. Some gym memberships are expensive. You know, some are free, and a lot of us aren't even using the resources we got. A lot of us aren't even going to the doctor. But the point is, if you got a gym membership and you never use it, that's a thing. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
actually bank on it. They
Mm-hmm.
bank on the fact that you'll pay for this membership and you'll never go. You'll pay for your car wash membership, but you'll never wash your car. You'll pay for this when you'll never show. You pay for your insurance, but you never see a doctor. So they're banking on that. My challenge is to use everything you pay for, like taking inventory of your subscriptions and saying, how can I use it?
Yep.
So I think with the idea of balance is that time inventory is super important because that's my excuse I hear the most. I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
I think once you do that, once you sit back with that, and that could be with yourself, that can be in therapy, that could be with your crew, whatever it is. I think once you have an honest conversation, I think you'll know your starting point, right? Because at least at this point, it could be something small, and your crew can tell you that's not enough, right? Or your body will tell you that's not enough because you're just breathing.
That you need to do more, that you've grown,
Mhm.
there's room for
Yeah.
expansion. Yes, yes, yes. Love it, love it, love it. So what, when you're thinking about this through fitness as an act of worship, right? Because remember, our bodies are a temple, right? Is the framework we're
Mhm.
working with today. So like, how can we look at this as like a spiritual practice and just like practical ways to incorporate fitness into a faith-centered lifestyle? And you kind of you're working in that direction with the harmony thing, but how do you think we can do that?
There's moments of gratitude I take like every day, right? And I'm a son of a preacher, so it kind of is instilled in me.
Hold, hold on. You do not get to sneak that in. I never knew that you were a
I'm
PK
a,
all
I
these
think you
years.
did. I'm an AMEPK, matter of fact.
Sir, I did not know. There's no way. Or if you told me, it didn't
Yeah,
stick. But I know I will never not
yeah,
know going
yeah. Some
forward.
some of
Okay.
your people, like they know my people. So yeah, yeah. So yeah. But I start your day with gratitude. I think when you think about your fitness journey, right, and you think about like what you're trying to literally say to yourself. To me, it's God. Like, can you get me through this, right? Or can you get me to the other side? And trusting that you'll get there. That's why I get so mad when people kind of meander in a workout, right? They don't leave it on the floor as if they don't trust that God's gonna protect them, God's gonna help their breathing, God's gonna mature them through the process. So, and I'm speaking specifically to a lot of high intensity things, but it's I don't know. I think it's starting with gratitude. Like I'm grateful for the body I have,
Mhm.
and I'm not working out because I'm not grateful. I'm working out to actually show how grateful I am because if I lay around dormant, then what happens, right? It withers away, just like my talent, right? So if I don't use it,
Yeah.
it withers away. I'm not trying to be the biggest person. I'm not trying to be. I want to look good. Let me keep it buck. I wanna look good, but I'm not.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
possible, so why not? And a lot of people do a whole lot, and they go out of their way to not
yeah,
look good.
but I'm just grateful. So I think like when you're thinking about an act of worship, it has to be intentional what you're doing, right? So I think when I bring up gratitude, I'm really telling your listeners like before you start the workout, just be thankful for the moment, right? Just take some time, and once you're intentional, or when you set your intention, I think that matters, right? Hey, I'm thankful for this moment. What's your intent of this workout? I want to give it all I got. I want to be present in the moment. It takes a lot of centeredness for you to actually make that happen, right? For your mind
Mm.
not to be with your babies, for your mind not to be with the debt that you owe to the IRS, for your mind not to be to all the bad. God, like that's a faith based journey. Like this, give me this moment in time where I can just be, but I don't want to be by myself. I want God there with me. I think that's valuable.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. That's so good, so rich. And I also heard an undertone in there of discipline and being
Yeah,
disciplined in
yeah,
the process. Yeah, that's really
yeah.
good.
If not, and sorry to cut you off, I think if not, like
No, you're
you're
good.
just working, right? If you're just working, you're not I mean, if you're doing a workout and you're not disciplined, all you're doing is working out, in my opinion. Like, because you haven't given up anything. You're just working out. Like, what are
Mhm.
you willing to give up to get it? that Snickers, that
Hmm.
ginger ale, like that one day where you just don't want to go, that because you don't want to be embarrassed. What are you giving up to get? And it could, like with the example before, it could be your own personal time because you want to bring other people along, but that's okay.
Yeah, and that's interesting because sometimes we want to bring people along, not for them as much as it is for
Mm,
us and our codependence. And even what you talked about, or you mentioned this earlier about having like survivor's remorse or survivor's guilt, or just, I guess I'm gonna call it
yeah,
thriver's
yeah,
remorse.
I
And
like that.
I already hear today,
Yeah.
thriver's remorse. Yes. Because then if I've changed, who am I? Who becomes my community? And like people are in fear of that. And like with community and sometimes what that means, and to be able to have this discipline, to be able to have these practices and really honor your body as a temple, sometimes what you're speaking and doing can be very radical. Because people
Yeah.
are like, I remember when I first stopped eating pork. Let me tell y'all something. My family is from Jackson, Mississippi, baby, and eat everything. Okay. And my aunt, shout out to my auntie Pop, love you. Her ham, listen. It's from I don't remember a time in my life where I did not love her ham and being at her house on Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever it was, she would make that ham. You had to put the pineapple slices on it, all the things, right? And I came back home because I think I had moved away. So this is when I was first early in the field, University of Maryland, first year working there. And I came home for Thanksgiving and she got to slicing that ham because she just all these years, like this is 20 something years, Jeannie have her plate out for that ham. And I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna have any. She looked at me like I had cussed at her. And I was like, I don't eat pork anymore. She's like, what you mean? When I tell you her
Yeah.
feelings looked hurt, I had no idea that she had me in mind when she
Hmm.
made that
Yeah.
ham, that, cooking and things like that. And I get it because it's in me too, right? It's also an act of love, an act of service to show those that who you care about, that, that you do care about them. And she thought about me, but like, I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much I was shaking things
Hmm.
up. So talk about that, how that it can be radical and to help our
Yeah.
listeners, our audience prepare for that,
Yeah. I
right?
think people think you're joking, right? Like when you do that. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. What do you mean you're not doing this? I know you. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? That one guy that you grew up with that said, I'm faithful now. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's that. It's like people people could judge you, and it's almost like, well, why did I even tell you in the first place? Like, you supposed to believe in me, not the ribbing of it all.
Yep.
But the
Yep.
radical, like, idea that being radical is real, just because, as my mother would say to me, like, your name is your name, and people only know like who you've been. They don't really know like where you're actually going per se. I think some people can say like, "Oh, I see it in you," and I do believe in that. But
Mm,
often, if you've been the person who is done nothing physical, to jump out and
yeah.
say, "I'm doing something physical," it's like, no, you're not. Like, I know you, right? So, but it's also, unfortunately,
Mm,
like, you probably haven't had it out there where you can show that you can actually accomplish it, right? Like, so
yeah.
it sounds like tongue in cheek. He's just talking. He really ain't
Yeah.
about it.
And they literally
Yeah,
say that
he's just talking. And
sometimes.
I think that's the issue. I think that's the issue of being outcome based, right? If you don't have something done by a certain amount of time, people are like, "Told you." That's why, like with doc students, I never ask them when they're finishing, right? Because the moment you ask and they're like, oh, I'm finishing next month. I'm like, where are you sure? And then you get to that one committee member that says you're not ready. It hurts. It's a bummer. And that's why people are ABD for longer than they need to be ABD. Same thing with fitness, I would
Yeah.
argue, right? Like, or that journey. A lot of people have said, I'm gonna be this in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, because I'm outcome based. And then you get there and you're not there, and people are like, I told you.
But there's progress that I think people
Facts.
miss along the
Facts.
way. And that's huge. Like, yeah, I didn't get to I don't know. I was just thinking like if someone wanted to lose 100 pounds, right? You didn't get to 100, but you got to
Yeah.
65.
It,
Hello, you see
yeah.
the proof is working. I just gotta tweak a few things and I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep
I
going.
think that's the part where I was going with the radical part. We haven't had a unified, collective, shared vision of what success looks like. So it's radical because it's like this big lifestyle change has happened in one moment, right? But you haven't seen the
Mm-hmm.
incremental changes that brought you to the place that said, I don't want to eat pork anymore, right? Like there's something that happened that led you
Oh,
up.
I wanted it.
Yeah, but something happened along the way though that said, I'm
Yeah.
not doing this. But all people saw was you're not
Yeah.
doing it. It's not the what happened. You know what? I was thinking about it, and this is going on, and this is going on, and I started reading a little bit, and I'm getting a little bit more aware, and I want to be more intentional about what's happening, and I want to be a little more disciplined, and I'm trying to find some balance in my
Mm-hmm.
life. All those things we talked about throughout this whole conversation led up to the decision, but the people only see the decision. So it's like, Dad, what happened to you? Well, a lot. Let's talk about it, right? That's that agency that I was sharing earlier. That's that planning that I was sharing earlier. It's a valuable thing to do, to share your story. We don't do that well either. But, I think this, hopefully with this podcast, people recognize that, it's valuable to say, I got on and got off and got back on and got off and now I'm back again and we're going to see what happens, right?
Absolutely.
Because you might catch a friend that says, me too. Let me be your accountability partner. Why'd you start your journey? I started because I wanted to get better. I got type 2 diabetes. I'm really trying to be here for my kids. Me too. Now we have a connection, we have a shared language, we have a bond. So let's do it
Mm-hmm.
together. Now we got some accountability rocking. And then we can check on each other. Oh, we got a feedback loop now. Like it's something about community that matters, but it's speaking about being
Mm-hmm.
intentional.
Mm-hmm.
It's speaking about being disciplined, all those things. But I think it looks radical because we only see the outcome. We don't see the story behind.
Yeah, that's good. And that I know you thing, ooh, ooh, that they know you, but I think people misjudge because it's almost like they're saying you can't outgrow the limitations I've set for
Facts.
you. Which in a lot of times could be limitations that they have set for themselves. And sometimes, even in our communities, right? Like, 'cause sometimes that's where our biggest hurdles and barriers and challenges can come from, which connects the mindset, right? Like, no one's ever done it. I know you, I've seen how what you've done all these years. So they are using data,
Mm-hmm.
right? To predict it, but they're forgetting a real key part. You are you, and what God put on the inside of you is unique to you. And, you may not share that, or God may tell you to just be
Yeah,
quiet.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that because I'm like that I know you. So like it's like the cousin to shoot. What's the other one that people use in a way? Oh, I don't want to give you false hope.
Mm,
Like those two things are related. So you rather I have no hope, essentially is what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, yeah. So those things where we think it's
Mm-hmm.
protection, right? Because I get that I know you was like, I don't want you to get your feelings hurt if it doesn't work out. That's why I said they're like related. They're cousins. I don't know how closely they're related, but it's of a similar mindset. And it can come from those who really care about us and they think they're protecting us when really they're clipping our
Yeah,
wings.
yeah. And we haven't had time to figure out a whole nother situation, a whole nother conversation. Like, how do you challenge back? Like, we just haven't figured that out. We're so defensive of our own actions or inactions that it's more of us to make an excuse, and we haven't said, "Hey, you hurt my feelings. What? Like, can we talk about it?" It's usually you hurt my feelings, we're not friends anymore, and then you put your back against the wall and you're fighting at the corner. But being able to say, "Hey, like, when you said you looking a little thick, that didn't make me feel good. Tell me what you were actually saying to me, right? Were you saying that I look unhealthy? Are you saying that, you think I need to work out? Do you know I've changed my eating habits? Like,
And I wouldn't even ask all those questions. What were you
yeah,
saying? Because it's on that
yeah,
person who from whom it came
yeah,
instead of you trying to guess. And what you're describing right there, that's a lot of times the narrative that goes on in our mind after the fact when we haven't expressed in the moment that our feelings have been hurt, or because we process at a different speed, like when we're quiet and settle down, like, hold on, what they
yeah,
just say? Why? And then that's the narrative that can start going in our minds. And we need to just put that back on them. And sometimes you got to pay attention to the source from which the comment
yeah. I agree.
comes. The one telling you thick is thicker than
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. I think it's all valuable. Like understanding what you heard and what they said, all valuable, right? So, but we haven't
Mhm.
had. I think there's some trauma in that because when we're going into this journey and we're really trying to really make a radical change, people are belittling the small steps around the way, and then it becomes it's
Mhm.
only about the big deal. But the big deals that's small. Think about the road trip. Last part, like when I go on a road trip, like I tell this to anybody who
Mhm.
wants to like like work out or set a goal, but usually it's about working out. And again, I'm not the greatest workout guy, but hear me out. If we were to say right now, me and you, Doc, we're gonna go to on a road trip. We're gonna drive though. Like you pick a city where you want to go. Like where would you want to go?
Look, I'm like, "Where we going?"
Yeah,
Because my imagination is mean. I'm like,
but
"Where
you
we
tell me
going?"
where you want to go.
I wanna this would be a road trip. I want to go to
Okay.
Arizona so I can either go to Sedona or go
Yeah,
see the Grand
yeah.
Canyon.
So we're gonna rock out. We're gonna get in the car. We're gonna take probably my car. You know what I mean? I'm gonna let you chill for a minute. We're gonna drive it out. Since we drive it out,
Okay.
we got to get snacks. So we're gonna pick up some snacks. They don't got to be healthy. We're just gonna get there, right? And then as we're driving, since you're coming from the East Coast, you know what I mean? I got to go to you, come back. I get a flat, right? I got a flat tire. Do we go back home or do we get it changed?
Get it
Get it changed. So we get the
changed.
tire changed and we keep.
Because you still gotta get it changed to go
Yep. So we
home.
get it changed. We keep rocking. As we keep rocking, next thing you know, hey man, keep it a buck. I'm sleepy. Do we go home or do we just stop and take a nap?
We stop and take
Yeah,
a nap, or if I feel like
you
driving,
drive. So then we keep it rocking. Next thing you know, we get pulled over by the police. Do we go home? Do we just take keep it rocking?
ooh, I see what you're doing here, all these
Right,
barriers. How close are we when we get pulled over
man.
by the
We
police?
proud like we in Texas like we rocking. We are close.
Okay. Well, then Imma say let's keep going. Well, even still, you too far from home.
We're gonna keep
We
going. And
going.
I think that's the thing. Like
We gonna keep
then
going.
we get there, we have a blast, but then we come back. The story
Mhm.
probably should be about the trip, right? Like the journey. But what we do is we talk about what we did in Arizona. We don't talk about like,
Yeah,
hey man, remember we got pulled over? Like, remember what happened when
that comes
yeah,
later for
so I think
sure.
that's the thing with fitness, right? Like we only talk about when we made
Mhm.
weight. We don't talk about, hey man, that one time you look stupid with your shorts on. Or you know that one time, like it's radical because it literally makes it make sense. It's radical because it paints a fuller picture of what we're doing. It's not just about we went to Arizona. It's we drove to Arizona. We had fun. We
Yeah,
talked on the way. We spent more time in the car than we did at our destination, but the destination was
yeah.
important. But the trip, oh man, that
Mhm.
was it. So I think that's where when we talk radical, we're talking that to me.
Yes, love that. That was so good. And I love a good example and just like to take us through it,
Appreciate it.
right? That's exactly how it goes. And that is indicative of the different barriers we face, whether it's fitness, whether it's going back to school, whether it's relationship. Like we're gonna be faced with barriers. And what are we going to do? Are we gonna turn around and go back or are we gonna keep going? So I what I got from that was definitely keep going. So we talked already like about community and accountability and as well as like just like spirituality in general. So I want to get a little more personal, right? Talk to us a little bit about your personal journey of integrating like faith and fitness.
Yeah, mine is different. I was never a fitness guy growing
Mhm.
up. I ran track in high school because colleges said I needed some type of extracurricular, and I knew I wanted to go to college. And I picked track because girls showed up, and I was like, that's a win-win. So I didn't have a definition of or a true destination of what I was trying to do other than to fulfill the requirements to go to school. So my journey really didn't start. I mentioned it earlier until like 2012. Like I
Yeah.
was in my doc program. A friend of mine hit me up and said, I see a Groupon for this CrossFit thing. You should try it. And I was like, nah, that looks intense. He was like, but we should, it's $50. I'm like, okay, well, $50, let's
Yeah.
go. So we did it, and we did it for about like a month, and because it was 30 days. And then when it ended, I really like was like in love with it. I was like, oh, this is dope, and that's sport per se, right?
Hmm.
And then they said, here's how much it will cost, and they put the cost on the table, and I was like, I'm a college, I ain't got it. So
Yeah.
another Groupon hit for a different gym, but it was CrossFit. Groupon was
Yeah.
popping back in the day. And
It
yeah,
was. It still
yeah,
exists. I don't know how the numbers
yeah.
doing.
So I jump in it and I'm like, hey, I really want to do this, but I want to be above board and let you know I just did 30 days with another gym. I don't know how this CrossFit thing will work. I don't know if y'all are friends or something like that. I don't want you to feel like I am using you. And he was like, try us. We're two different things. Let's go. So I get there and I work out for the whole month. And I've been talking to him the whole time about the cost, but it was almost the same. All right. So I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to do this when the year is out. And I actually pray, like I really want to do something other than work and school. Other than work and school.
Yeah.
And this is helping me find that harmony that I was looking for. So when the 30 days ended, he said, you'll never believe it. I'm about to buy the gym. I'm like, oh, you about to buy it? He's like, yeah. He said, so you technically are like one of my first, like you're part of the first family.
Not a
Yeah.
founding member.
So what we gonna do is for you, the rate I quoted you, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do something less. So let's imagine if I'm correct, if the rate he quoted me was like 100, he was like, I'm gonna give you like 75, but you got unlimited access in the gym. And I was like, huh. The excuse was it's still expensive. But the difference was I actually didn't pray for it to be like $50. I prayed for it to be affordable. So because I wanted to do something, right? I still wanted to work. So I was like, bet. Like, honestly, I'll do it. He said, the only thing that's contingent, just so you know, is you and your friend that you've been bringing have to start, like, you're on a couples membership. We're not a couple, but we're on a couples membership. I said, so we both get in for 75? They were like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's a blessing. So next thing you know, like not only do I have a new community, I watch a prayer get answered, right? I wanted to do something, right? And I asked for it to be affordable. And it became affordable for at least whatever season I was in. And next thing
Yes.
you know, it opened up and I was able to do it. Not the original gym I went to, right? CrossFit is CrossFit, but the second gym. And I think that made me just kind of look at it a little differently. Like, what am I willing to talk about, pray about, ask for? Because you don't know until you do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the beginning of that
Mm-hmm.
little, not little, but that journey for me because I literally watched a prayer get answered. And on my wall in my office, there's a picture of me looking down, graduation
Mm-hmm.
regalia, and everybody's like cheering around me. And I was praying. And I remember that prayer because I kept saying, God, I asked for this. Like that was like the theme that ran through that
It's
entire
so
moment,
good.
right? So it's like I asked for this. I asked for some affordability because I'm broke. I'm a broke college student trying to work out. I asked to be Dr. Boone and you provided a way. I asked for it to get paid for and the school basically paid for my degree. Now it's real, right? Like it's a thing because it's the lights are on. It's hot. Like I'm seeing it all happen, and I got overwhelmed. So when everybody was looking up, cheering, I'm praying, and it's because I was reminded, like I asked for this, and it's weird how God's favor works, right? So it may not have been
Mm-hmm.
like the timing I wanted because I asked for the degree. It took me a little longer than I said I was going to work. I thought I was going to work on.
Yep.
I asked for the
I
degree,
understand that.
I defended and didn't have a job when I came back. So technically I'm homeless, but I asked for it and God gave it to me, but he also gave me provision and favor. So I think the fitness thing really worked for me because it reminded me you asked. And then it started to show me like what does sacrifice look like? Right? Like what does it look like to when you diet? Diet to me is just a fancy word for sacrifice. Right? Like what are you giving up? What are you not doing?
Okay.
So it was you start to realize I can't run as hard if I drank the day before. Like it's certain things you realize that you can't do. So it's like, all right, well, shift your lifestyle a little bit. But it's for the greater good.
That was so good. It was like story time with Dr. Boone.
Appreciate it.
Yes, but I heard you say something that popped out to me because you were talking about just like God and realizing that prayers were answered. And you said it was a little bit invalidating, whether you recognize it or not, when you were like, I asked for this, I had the degree, but I didn't have a job afterwards, right? But one, that's not what you prayed for. Two, a perspective shift would tell you God gave you
Got me
rest.
rep.
I don't
Yep.
know how much time
Mm-hmm.
was in
Mm-hmm.
between getting your job or starting your job, because obviously you're here with us today and you holding it down at Grand Valley. Yes, they need you, we need you. So sometimes we, again, it's that finished thing that you're talking about, the product, the outcome. Okay, you got this, now you got the job. No, baby, you need
Yeah.
rest after a
Yeah.
doctorate.
To be your listeners should hear, like, it wasn't invalidating for me, because what I actually learned is I would have sat
Mhm.
there. Like, I would have stayed
Mhm.
there, and God moved me out of that, because I still had to finish my edits. I still had to do so many things. But when I lost it, I was forced to go, like, to get busy, because I had a timeline.
What do you mean when you say you lost it?
So I was in Canada working on my dissertation and an internship. I was at Ryerson University in Toronto. Beautiful city.
Yeah.
This job, another story about asking, they 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 shared that they were going to pay me. This is my last semester in my doc program. They're going to pay me for the summer. It's probably not a lot, so let's say like $6,000. But they're going to put me up downtown Toronto, and
Mm.
you get to like work for the summer. They called me probably, they called me, let's say around May, the beginning of May. I've already bought my ticket in Marchish. They called and said, hey, unfortunately, we can't pay for you to come. Your visa never
Mm.
got approved. We can't pay. And I said, so
Mm.
what are you saying? And they said, well, you can still come. We can't pay. I said, well, what can you do? And they said, well, we could put you up in the same apartment that we're going to put you in. We can get you a phone from the university so you can call back and forth. We can get you a gym membership because we heard you like the gym, but we can't physically pay you. I said, I'll see you in May.
Mhm.
So I get there, and as I'm there, I'm writing, and this is the first time my data started speaking. For you, when you start coding, you're looking at the wall or the floor if you're old school, and you're like, what am I looking at? And eventually it clicks, it hits you like, oh snap, I'm looking at that. Well, that happened. So I called my people and said, hey, my major professor, I think I'm done. He said, send it to me. He read it in a weekend. He said, that's it. Fly home. Let's defend it. I said, when? He said, fly home. Give it about 2 weeks. Get your committee situated. We'll defend it. I was like, all right. It was a little longer. So say 3 weeks. So sent it to my committee.
Mhm.
Came home, which again, blessing. The school who couldn't pay for me, pay for my flight home, said, you about to go what? So I'm about to go defend. They said, we're going to pay for that. So they paid for me to fly home.
Look at God.
I get ready to defend. The day before my defense, they said, you can't defend your dissertation. I said, why not? They said, you're not registering classes right now. You're registered in an internship, which is different. So you have to be registered in a class. So now I got to pay money I ain't got to register in a class to then defend
Yep.
my dissertation.
I remember those days
So I
too.
defend my dissertation. I'm still a graduate assistant. So I'm full time in grad life. So I don't have a job, but I'm full time and my contract's been renewed for the next year. Kyle defends, Kyle becomes stock, Kyle goes home. The next day, I get a phone call. Hey, Boone. No, not next day. 2 days later, I get a phone call. The weekend later, excuse me, I get a phone call. Hey, Boone, congratulations. Heard you came down to defend. It was the director of housing. I said, yeah, man. He said, well, Dr. Boone, man, nice. Man, so good. This has a ring to it. I'm like, man, thanks, brother. What you calling for?
Mhm. Kyle said, "Let's get to
Yeah,
business. You buttering
yeah.
me up for
He
what?"
said, unfortunately, now that you're Dr. Boone, you're not a grad student anymore. And since you're not a grad student, you can't have your graduate assistantship. So we're going to rescind your offer. I live where I work. So you're telling me the happiest time of my
Way
life,
too much.
I'm now homeless. I'm like, all right, well, what? So I pull, this is a bigger story than that, but for your listeners, just know
Yeah.
I bowed out gracefully. I was like, you got it. You know what I mean? But now I'm sitting in Canada knowing I got about a month or two left, a month and a half left. And next thing you know, I don't have a home to go to. You know what I mean?
Not yet. You got a home because God got you,
So,
but I
so,
get it. We're
yep,
staying in the physical, in the
yeah.
material.
So got back, consulted with some folks, realized how dope my crew is, and got to writing.
Your
Yeah,
community.
and next thing you know, I was already docked, but my edits have to be approved by a certain time before I walk the stage. So anyway, I didn't take it as invalid. I took it as it really made me say it's time to work, because you have your timing is limited, but I also got stuff I want you to do. And I think that was God's way of saying or having that real conversation with me. Because I think I would have
That's
waited.
so
I
good.
think I would have waited the whole year. I would have took my little time to write, edit. So,
You see, God knows his children because I've had many of those similar type of moments where I would have been comfortable. I would have took at my pace.
hmm
When God's like, baby, people waiting for you. Let's
hmm
go. Where he had to make me uncomfortable. He had to make situations happen that forced me to move, right? That where you're not supposed to be. And so to on the surface, it's like, what? I'm homeless. Like, what? I just had a contract. I just had my next year kind of mapped out. Didn't have to worry about it. Now I got a month to get it together. Some people would have stopped right there. But when those things happen, when God is stripping things away, it's not punishment. And so many people end up thinking it's punishment. And no, he's making space because how can you receive if you got an offer in hand? He said, give me that.
hmm
So he can fill your hands up with something bigger,
it's facts.
something better, something handcrafted just for Dr. Kyle Boone, who prayed for this. And I'm going to give him double for his trouble, and I'm going to bless him exceedingly and
Yep,
abundantly.
exactly what happened.
That was like a good story. That's so good. See, story time with Dr. Boone, we might just have to have you on from time to time just to do
Yeah.
story time. And I love a good story. Um, did we even finish the whole question? No, because I asked you about what that meant. Integrating faith and
Oh,
fitness.
what it meant. To be fair, it meant that you like I had to ask, like like what do you want me to do with this? Like, what do you want me to do with my body,
Mm,
in this sense? Like, not like, do you
mhm,
not want me to
mm,
move, but like, do you want me to do it this way, right? Are you cool with me talking about this journey? Like, I think I've been injured one time while working out,
mhm,
and that's a whole nother story and a good little story. But in that time, I was competing with folks, right? And it was like I don't know, it kind of sat me down a little bit. So I think, and I was doing, think about it, in my own little small world, I was rocking it. But around that time, I think I needed to slow down, right? So
mm.
anyway, so what it meant, like I don't know, I think you have to. I don't want to say consult with God, but there needs to be a.
It works.
It needs to.
There's a lot of different ways in which we need to be
Yeah,
in relationship with him.
yeah,
Sometimes he is our
yeah.
consultant.
You really need to like sit, like not at sit back and be at peace with silence, and sit back and have a conversation about like what does all this mean.
Yes.
Unfortunately, like I'm a black man whose family has had neurological issues. I'm watching black men who struggle with prostate issues. I'm watching obesity run rampant in my own family. It's like, what
Mm,
else? Like, how do we break this, right? How do you want me to show up? Because I am different. Like, my mom gets busy in the kitchen,
yeah, I
but I
bet.
I and this is also about status, but some things I eat now that my mom ain't eating. You know what I mean? Like, my mom puts sugar in a lot of stuff.
Be over
Like,
there eating, Dr.
but
Boone.
it's just our normal. It's probably the normal stuff we normally eat. You know what I mean? But it's the from where I'm from, rice, potatoes, grits, cream of wheat. Like, that
Yes.
was a thing,
Love me a good bowl of grit.
right? So to challenge that and be like, hey man, I'm cool. Like you mean you cool? So it's I'm not breaking a generational curse. I don't think it's a curse, but I'm challenging what we
You're a
know.
cycle breaker.
Yeah, we're just challenging what it is. You know what I mean? Just think about
Mhm.
how much sweet you eat. So anyway, I think maybe I'm going around the world with, like, what does it mean? But I think it does mean like you have to be okay with not being okay. You have to be okay with looking at stuff and saying, you ain't got nothing for me in here. Let me go get something else, right? I'm gonna have to go see my dad in a couple of days. I know for sure his refrigerator is not gonna have what I need in it. You know what I mean? It's okay
Yeah.
with, going to get what I need, and seeing if he'll jump in there with me, right? Anyways, but I don't know. It's also an opportunity to be in family. I mean, community with family, right? Because I'm gonna walk with my
Yeah.
family. I'm gonna get people outside.
Yes, absolutely. Bring them in on a journey with you. Man, this has been so good and easily I think we could continue talking about this. So I do want, because I know you and you've been laying the groundwork here, what are a couple good, easy reads that you think could be good to recommend to our audience?
Reads. I can give you one right now. Think Like a Monk. Jay Shetty would be
Mm.
a
Jay
wonderful.
Shetty's popping.
Yeah, it would be a wonderful start. It's long,
Okay.
but it gives you space to talk about like what does meditation look like? What does centering and grounding look like? I think that is a good one. I said I didn't like it earlier, but I was only saying it because it's repetitive. I think the power of ritual is really good. It's just not.
But think about it. It makes sense for it to be repetitive if it's called the power
Yeah,
of
it's
ritual.
it's super like you're like I think I know the ending. But I think those two are a really really good start. I think the other read that I will offer, which has nothing to do with meditation, is Heavy by is it Kiese Laymon? I mean, I probably butchered his name, but it's like a letter to his
Yeah.
mother about his relationship with weight. Oh my gosh, it is powerful. It is powerful.
Okay.
Yeah, Laymon. I think he's a professor at Rice.
I'll link it so that they can
Oh,
find
it's
it.
powerful, but it's an excellent, excellent read about like his journey. And matter of fact, I would even start with that, and then possibly go Think Like a Monk number 2, and then if you got time, maybe next year, Power of Ritual. I'm so glad you asked me that question.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, so now we're gonna wrap you up with our signature question. If you could leave the audience with one powerful truth to help them rise and thrive, what would it be?
But tell your audience it's powerful to start your day or end your day on your own terms.
That you're my second guest that talked about that being such an important part. And that's the episode, in case any of y'all missed it, with Coach Rice, where he talks about spending the first part of your day like with
Yeah,
self, right, and needing that.
yeah,
Thank you for reinforcing that for
you got it.
sure. So I want to thank you again, Dr. Boone, for taking time out of your busy day to be here with me today and to really bless our audience. You left us with so many gems. I got notes. I had to write it down because we got to do a really good recap on there, right? So the first thing you said, do you make time for time? So listeners, make sure you're making time for the things that are important to you, making time for time. You talked about the importance of awareness, and that's how we can start this journey and grow. And I'm calling it the first 15, what you just wrapped up with. Spending that time with yourself. Call it the first 15 because that sounds catchy, but it could be the first 50, the first 30, whatever works for you in your time. What matters is that you start your day on your terms. Wow, your messaging is so consistent through here. Like, own your day, just start. And something that I heard you say that you didn't say it directly, but it was my interpretation is letting go of comparing and competing and get into community. Community was a consistent theme throughout our time here together today. And that's super valuable. And I also love how you talked about the power of speaking and how that gives others permission to be able to examine themselves or to give them direction, but also speaking to God in prayer, right? And those things that it does in your life and the ripple effect that comes from that, right? And we cannot leave here without acknowledging how you really broke down the difference between balance and harmony and just bringing harmony into everything that you do to be able to have growth in so many areas of your life and not operating in extremes. Thank you for that richness. All right, so now this is where any last words?
No, I appreciate you even reaching out, and I didn't know I had much content to give you, but I'm glad we had a good conversation. We'll be rocking an hour. This is all right with me.
I listen. I already knew. I had no doubt. Anytime we get on the phone, anytime I've seen you, it's always good quality conversation. It's also good laughs with there. It's always an enriching experience, I think. And I think that's how, even though we like maybe fell out of contact for a while, like, but you were always someone I was just like, no, Kyle's solid, right? Like Kyle is solid. And so I
Yeah,
appreciate that. So of course you had something to
I
offer.
appreciate that.
Of course you have something to offer. And so we're going to wrap up now, audience. This is for you. This is your call to action. So I want you to reflect on how you are currently treating the body that God has given you. And then we're going to build on that and take action. And we want you to choose one small step today, whether you're talking about drinking more water, just moving your body, having something green once a day, whatever the thing is, commit to doing that today. And then finally, I'm not going to let you all leave without me affirming you in some sort of way. So your affirmation for today is, my body is a temple and I will care for it with love, discipline, and gratitude. And so I want to thank you all again today for tuning in for another episode of Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole, where we are rising in faith and thriving in purpose. And I am excited. The day in which we are recording this episode, the merch is live. So if you haven't already gotten your merch, go to www.evolvewithdrjnicole. You can do two things. One, you can get in community and join the Thrive Tribe. So once you go to the website, you're going to get that pop-up so you can make sure you don't miss any updates. We'll send out text and email updates. But then I also want you to scroll down or click to go to the podcast. And then when you do that, you can click Shop the Merch. So, and you can we have the exclusive mugs, we have hats, we got the hoodie, you got your journal, right? And just have a good time. And if it's not your style, gift it to someone that might benefit. So thank you again, Kuile, Dr. Boone, for being here. And it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for blessing the audience, and thank you for blessing me with your presence.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you.